Welcome back to Babylon 5, where Ivanova gives the voice of the resistance to update on the campaign, and it's going well. Freeing other systems and turning Earth Force ships over to B5, everything's coming up flarn. But Garibaldi paints a different picture. The idea that Sheridan is going to lead a fleet against their own is horrifying to him, the sign that Sheridan has some kind of delusions of grandeur. As for Garibaldi himself, he's gone all apocalypse now. He's talking about going back to Mars like he's upset that Charlie's out there getting stronger, or whoever it is for Martians. Matt Damon is out there getting stronger. Well, there is a point of contention between the head lackey and Garibaldi over the matter of wearing a blindfold, which leads to...
Mr. Edgars doesn't like average guys. He likes his people smart, well-spoken, presentable. I ever tell you I have a master's in literature?
Wow, and now you're a master henchman. Take that, people who think a liberal arts degree is a waste of time. After the titles, Dr. Franklin is working on one of those telepaths full of shadow technology. You know, the stuff that turns him into Linda Blair. It puts Franklin in a bad mood.
The captain, he just keeps bugging me about this every time he calls.
Did he tell you why?
No, he does not tell me why, and that just makes it even more frustrating.
Is it because you keep yelling shut up at him? While he goes to spread sunshine this way, Lita shows up because Zach needs to hire her for a scan to help determine if they caught the right perp. She's not scanning the suspect, she's scanning the victim. And we're not rebelling against Clark for the right to root through people's thoughts without their permission. Unlike this guy. Who seems to be into that sort of thing. Well, this could solve Dr. Franklin's problem. Anything to make him less grumpy, I say. Meanwhile, Garibaldi has arrived and found Lise before he even gets a chance to meet his boss. If you don't remember her, she's Garibaldi's ex-lover and his boss's current wife, so this has real potential to get awkward.
I apologize for the smallness of the house.
The rest of the house is out being cleaned.
Next time you'll have to come see us back on Earth. 500 acres of watershed land.
So many places to bury the body of someone who fucks my wife. He wants to know why Garibaldi wanted this meeting so badly, so he says he wants to know what he's helping to smuggle, and to know what's going to be done to stop Sheridan before he makes himself emperor. What's quickly clear is that despite early appearances that these guys were all on the side of Clark or Night Watch or the Ministry of Skulking, Edgars has no love for that jackbooted thug. They long suspected he was behind President Santiago's death, and they're working to quietly remove him from within. But Sheridan is making the job harder because he's getting Clark all worked up. Garibaldi agrees Sheridan is making a mistake and thinks that he needs to be taken in for his own good, but not by Clark, someplace where he's going to get treatment, not waterboarding. Edgars isn't sold on that plan, but he'll think about the potential it has for the future. For now, he leaves Garibaldi in his sleeping closet until the time is right. Back on B5, Lita gets chased down by Dr. Franklin, who's excited.
You got a reaction out of one of my patients. For those few seconds, he was conscious and responding without being a danger to himself or to others.
Hell, that's better than my wife most days. She explains that as she was looking at him, she heard the sound of a passing shadow vessel, and instinctively she made it go away. Somehow that woke the guy up. Oh, speaking of waking up. The best part of waking up is a boot in your butt. He gets shoved into a room with a telepath where Edgars says that she's just here to ascertain whether or not he's telling the truth, and wants him all worked up so he can't prepare himself mentally to try to block or deceive her, that he'll only tell the truth. First question's a socially awkward one. What do you think of telepaths? And make sure this telepath here can hear you.
Feel free to be honest, Mr. Garibaldi. Her job is to report, not to be offended by your opinions.
No, but I'm sure it's a free service she'd be happy to provide. Well, with that, Garibaldi really lets loose, going off about how much he doesn't trust those telepaths. The safeguards are all bullshit, and there's a grossly imbalanced power dynamic at work here. And on other matters, he says that he knows Edgars is up to more than he's saying, because someone like him would not hire someone like Garibaldi to do this kind of a job for the simple reason of keeping it out of his competitors' hands. He has the money to do this right. But he has something that he wants kept quiet, so he went with a small-timer like Garibaldi instead, knowing he'd keep his mouth shut.
So you assume I'm lying?
Everybody lies.
That's a very sad view of the universe, Mr. Garibaldi.
Yeah, well, it's the only one I got.
It is kind of backed up by the human lie detector in this room.
One more thing. Are you still in love with my wife?
The question is vague.
Edgars must be happy with the answer, because he tells Lise that Garibaldi will make a fine addition, and I'm going to assume he doesn't follow that with a muttering of, "to the compost heap." And I'm not playing up the master villain angle for laughs either. Over on B5, Lita has been guilted into helping Dr. Franklin work on those cyborg telepaths, so they're running an experiment, seeing if there's a way to have the equipment duplicate the process of safely reviving them. Well, he's got a hint of what's happening. Technical stuff is happening that says when they don't have any processing to do, basically the brain goes apeshit. Though it should be noted, you can strangle someone calmly. The guy has a memory of aliens doing something to him. That's what prompted him to crush the nearest windpipe, and why he almost kills himself rather than go on living like this. Only Lita's intervention stops him. Back on Mars...
Would you like some orange juice?
I apologize for the smallness of the glass. The title comes up now because the exercise of vital powers along lines of excellence affording them proper scope was how the Greeks defined happiness. To simplify, to be able to look back and see that you fulfilled your potential and didn't let anything get in the way. His point is that with telepaths around, how can any non-telepath be able to overcome them, and thus achieve happiness? He doesn't like telepaths, in case shooting one didn't make that clear. Garibaldi knows that some in the Psi Corps want to take over, but doesn't think that they actually could. They're outnumbered. Edgar's point is that numbers don't matter. The possession and use of information is what matters. Or to put it another way, some dozens of senators in the right place at the right time were able to do what entire armies never could: kill Julius Caesar. It didn't make for a good play, though. Edgar responds to Garibaldi's point about taking over by saying it's not the way it works. I'm reminded of the DS9 episode The Nagus, when Zek chastised his son after he tried to usurp Quark through violence. You don't grab power. You accumulate it quietly without anyone noticing. Edgar's isn't quite the same, but it's the same principle, that the despicable people of history often didn't take power, but were given it because of what they promised or what they had done. It was surrendered to them. Clark may have arranged the death of President Santiago, but even that didn't seize power. They handed it over to him. And upon hearing his xenophobic rants, people went along with it. And we started getting all 1984, people still went along with it. But he never walked in with a gun and took the power by force. It was quietly surrendered to him. All he's done is consolidated it. But he's paranoid, so he's taken the Psi Corps in as allies to have them ensure no one was plotting against him, not caring that he was handing more power over to them. And taking power away from someone who has it already, that's hard. And if Sheridan forces a confrontation, Clark will only care about the here and now, and thus give the Psi Corps unprecedented levels of power that they will never relinquish. Just think about it. No one will ever be able to pull a card trick again. Unsurprisingly, given what Zek had said, Edgar says that the real ones in charge are the corporations. If anything comes along that threatens their interest, they step in and put a stop to it. But otherwise, they're hands off. There's no need to, control every single little detail out there. All you really need to do is just interfere when something is going to affect you, and otherwise let everyone carry on without drawing attention to yourself. Thus, they let Clark do his thing despite the suspicions that they had about the assassination, because even if he is a murdering bastard, so long as he's not getting in the way, what does that really matter? It's only now that he's turned into frickin' Nero and unleashed the thought police that they need to stop him. And they can deal with Clark, but not if he's so worked up over Sheridan that they can't get anything done. If someone's a paranoid nut, then it really winds them up to find out that someone actually is out to get them. Meanwhile,
How's everything else?
So far, so good.
I dropped something while I was working on this, and in my peripheral vision it looked like the bridge had shrunk down and been put in a snow globe. After good news with more defections, Sheridan gets patched through to Stephen to wind him up a little tighter. Dr. Franklin demands to know why this telepath thing is so damn important. So Sheridan tells him. That put a spring in his step, didn't it? After waxing about how whacked this plan is, Dr. Franklin hires Lita to come with him to Mars. Unaware that Garibaldi is there already, busy exploring his past with Lise and why it all fell apart to the point where she never picked the pieces back up again, even when her new life imploded. She was lucky to wind up with someone like Edgar's, who loves her, treats her well, and has a secret ward where he experiments on unwilling human subjects. Okay, that last one isn't as sexy as the first two, but still. Apparently these people are off of a drug. That's what's affecting them. Something that presumably cured this. I mean, I can't imagine any problem I would ever have that's worth the side effect of stop taking treatment and become a leper. Edgar says to mercy kill them. There's no need to wait for them to die in agony just to confirm that they'll die. Something that surprises his minion. I mean, that's really not in keeping with the scientific approach you learn getting a master's in literature. Garibaldi comes by later to say he's thought about what Edgar's said and decided he's in all the way. Edgar's is pleased, but says that a verbal declaration, that's not quite enough. Garibaldi needs to demonstrate that he's committed to this course of action. And that demonstration is nothing small. He wants Garibaldi to bring in Sheridan so that Edgar's can hand him over to Clark. That'll get the little Hitler to calm the hell down, and they can get back to quietly removing him from power without leaving the Psi Corps in control. And do it before Clark actually has Sheridan killed. So yeah, it's not going to be a trip to Hawaii, but it won't be permanent, he says. Well, Garibaldi weighs the options and says the answer is Sheridan's father. He knows how to track him down through his medicine. And with him in, Garibaldi can then convince Sheridan to personally meet with him for pickup. Aha. Well, that's certainly a line you cross that you don't come back from. So, what happens? We'll find out in 2 weeks when things finally come together in The Face of the Enemy.